What is up YouTube? This is Alex aka Foreign. Ryzen has been out for a few weeks and I think it's fair to talk about it in more detail right now. And with that, I'll also give some recommendations on which Ryzen combo to buy. As of the 28th of March 2017, there are 3 Ryzen CPUs out. The flagship 1800X, the 1700X, and the 1700. All 3 are 8-core 16-thread processors that work anywhere between 3 and 4 GHz depending on the model and overclock. They're essentially the same CPU, especially considering their overclockability. All Ryzen CPUs can be overclocked, by the way. Now, considering overclocks, all 3 of these processors will most often reach 4, sometimes 4.1 GHz. An 1800X and a 1700X will usually top out at 4 to 4.1, with the much cheaper 1700 usually reaching 4 GHz on the same motherboard. The performance difference between these CPUs at those clocks specifically is very minimal and basically non-existent, so the 1700 would actually be the better choice here. But the motherboards play a very important role here. If with Intel, for instance, you can put a cheap i5-7400 into a motherboard that costs like $300 and see absolutely no benefit from that expensive MOBO because the i5 is a locked SKU, then if you were to put a Ryzen 7 1700 into a flagship motherboard, for instance the ASRock X370 Taichi, you will most likely be able to get that CPU up to 1800X performance. You can put an 1800X into a cheap $100 motherboard too. In theory, it should run at a 4 GHz boost clock on a single core out of the box, but I'm not sure because I haven't seen any benchmarks done like that. The fact is that unlike with Intel CPUs, with Ryzen you can pair a cheap Ryzen 7 1700 processor and a good quality motherboard and get a very good performance increase through overclocking, and it can definitely be cheaper to go that route than getting an almost 2 times more expensive 1800X with a cheaper motherboard that is bound to have BIOS issues either way. Now, considering gaming performance, many tech YouTubers are starting to catch up with the idea that Ryzen is very dependent on RAM speeds due to the inherent design of the Zen microarchitecture. This means that getting a RAM kit that supports higher clock speeds and tighter timings with a motherboard that can support all of that will benefit the gaming performance significantly. Paired with a RAM kit running at an extremely high 3600 MHz, for instance, Mindblank Tech showed that the Ryzen CPU is actually able to rival the infamous i7-7700K at 5 GHz in almost all games. It's close to impossible to get RAM working at that speed though, which is a bummer for the regular folk, but it shows how much of an important role RAM speed plays here. In my opinion, Ryzen started a little revolution in the CPU space. As AMD stated multiple times, it's time to shake up the market, and I think that's exactly what Ryzen did. Or if not, then it's very close to doing so. Even with all the AM4 platform problems we currently have, the CPUs show great promise, and in a few months, when most X370 motherboards, maybe even the B350 ones, will support higher clocked RAM kits, then we'll definitely see retesting of Ryzen CPUs, and I have a feeling we'll be pleasantly surprised. In the end, if you don't have infinite money and are considering a Ryzen build, I'd recommend pairing a Ryzen 7 1700 with an X370 board. For instance, Taichi from ASRock shows very good performance right now, and getting a good kit of RAM that will run at least 300 MHz is also essential. But be prepared to tinker with the motherboard BIOS, the settings and all that interesting stuff, because just like with the X99 platform, Ryzen has some serious launch issues. Hopefully though, it'll all be fixed in a few months. You can find links to the stuff I recommend in this video down in the description below. If you have any questions, drop a comment here or on Twitter. I also made a Facebook page where I regularly post interesting news articles. You can find all of the links down in the description below. I thank you for your attention and hope to see you later.